I've said this before. I'll say it again. I think Mike's offense and the way he calls plays for quarterbacks, I think he's going to get a lot out of you if it's in there. He's going to get, your completion percentage is going to go up. He's going to scheme some open, easy throws for you to make. I suspect that there's confidence that will be gained early on as Mike builds him back to what he wants him to be, or builds him up to what he'd like him to be within this offense. I will tell you, as far as him running around, I want to clarify my point about what he's capable of. So when we went out and watched Tour of Duty, it's readily apparent he's extremely slow-footed. He is not an elite athlete when it comes to speed, quickness, agility. He's a big, lumbering guy. But what I think he can also be is a battering ram in short yardage situations. And that's what I mean. Now, if you turn your back on him in man and there's nobody around and he can break the pocket, you got a problem on your hands, because if he gets going and he gets to the second level at 250-plus pounds, that's a tough tackle. But you're not going to see him have anything close to the ability of making guys miss in a confined space the way Jordan did, obviously. So I just want to clarify that, because I watched him carefully in those drills, and I immediately thought, all right, I knew he wasn't an elite runner. We haven't painted the picture that he was an elite runner, but I think people hear us say, oh, well, he'll run. He can run. And I think that's more of a commentary that Jordan didn't want to run last year than it is a praise for him as a runner.
Yeah, well, he can, and in the open field, he can make you miss, but it requires about 6 steps to get going for him to make you miss. Like, he's got an idea of timing. He knows how to set up blocks. He knows the concept of a play pretty well. I think as a quarterback, he looks like he's got a good IQ about what a running play is supposed to do. Not every quarterback does. Some of them look completely lost, especially pocket passers. They look lost if you're trying to set up a block or have a pulling guard. Like, they don't know what to do. They panic. He does not panic in those situations. He's very patient. But you're right. I mean, he's not going to dance around and make, 2 dudes miss, then fire it 50 yards on a rope. Like, that's just not his game. His game is to anticipate, to diagnose pre-snap, understand where he's going with the ball, and then throw it 105 miles an hour and get it there before your defender can get there. And then if we can get to 3rd and 2, lower the shoulder and be a man about it. And he was at Oregon State. He was. I look forward to that combination of things coming. He's a very smart quarterback. I hope that you guys see that in the first week, because again, it's acclimation. So, they might have shells on. I don't know. I feel like the rules change all the time, but you're not in full pads for about a week. I hope you get to see those little indicators of the quarterback's brain. Like, he's got that. It's not about that. When he misses, it's inexplicable, because he knows where to go with the ball. He's on time with it. He just misses, but he makes the right reads. He can whip his body around from one half of the field to the other, not feel panicked about that. It's like a skill that a great center fielder has, to take their eye off the ball, put their arm out and catch over their shoulder.
Run to a spot, yeah.
He's got that. It's just that there's an inconsistency with the accuracy. And maybe if Mike unlocks that, and we talked about this, if Mike and Tony Tokars unlock that, this dude's going to go he's going to be a contender for awards in the postseason, and the reputation of Norvell and Tokars is going to be nationwide as quarterback whisperers. I hope that's the case.
Well, I do too, and I think it's possible. He's played a lot of football. There's a lot of football under that belt now, and so his ability to acclimate and to read a defense and to do all the things you're talking about, it's probably never going to have been better than it will be this year. With those guys coaching him, all the games that he's played, 2 different offensive schemes. This will be his 3rd. He's just seen a lot of football, played a lot of football, and he's got weapons galore now. I keep saying this. I made a point. I've made this point that I think the offense will be better this year, and I've said it for a variety of reasons. I'm wholeheartedly sticking by that. And I think part of that is just how giddy I am about this receiving core. It is okay for people to say, we just don't have a lot of guys who've done it in games. Fair. It doesn't mean they can't do it, and it doesn't mean they won't do it, and it doesn't mean that we're going to have to watch, 3 or 4 games worth of growing pains. I don't think so. You have enough experience at receiver and enough reps. Hakeem Williams, I mean, good Lord, he played a lot of football. He was in a lot of games. He repped a lot in practice, obviously, before his injuries. So That's a kid who I think is, and when you see him, Tom, I know you saw the video, but I want you to see him in person. What he's done in 1 year. This is, if I'm Coach Storms, I'm rolling him out as a case in point of what I'm capable of. I mean, this is a guy that is freakish in the sense that he's gifted genetically. I mean, you look at, to be 6'4", 6'5", 2 whatever, Coach Storms can't teach that. But the other stuff, like the way he's trimmed down and the efforts he's put in, he looks amazing.
Yeah, that's the uncomfortable binder that every strength coach has, which is the binder of a bunch of dudes in underwear comparing year-to-year photos. And here's my first case.
Yeah. No, but it's true. You watch people transform their bodies, and none greater than him. He's been remarkable. And there are a lot of guys that are fast, a lot of guys that were at practice every day last year that can come out there and assume their spot on the mantle. And I mean, Portier's been in this program for 25 years.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got a ton of guys that have been. Darion Williamson's been in this program forever.
Yeah, I worry that it's going to be bumpy to start, like for spring purposes. It wouldn't be shocking. Like, you're talking about growing pains in games, fine. Yeah. But I do think that there will be growing pains in springtime.
Sure.
There's kids being elevated to a different role, so they're pressuring themselves. Like, if you're Darion or if you're Kentron, at this point, it's now or never. I might need to transfer at the end of this camp. So there's a pressure that comes with that's internalized, and hopefully it doesn't show on the field. But, like, these are real-life things that players have to consider in this day and age, especially with the influx of receivers that Florida State has brought in. DJ's trying to get used to the new offense. He's trying to build chemistry with these receivers. I know they've done 7-on-7 workouts, but this is different. That secondary is good, so it's going to challenge them. And if you make a misstep, they're going to make you look foolish. Like, it wouldn't shock me at all if the first 2 to 3 weeks of spring camp are a little bit bumpy with DJ. But here's the thing. I know we won't be able to talk about it openly, but we can in private until the season comes. I wonder if there's a little collaboration of the Jonathan Smith offense that DJ is coming from and the Mike Norvell offense, which is multiple as hell already. Could we see some under center stuff? Because they ran a lot of that at Oregon State. Offset eye. Mike Norvell talks about how he loves the fullback. I mean, maybe, could it be? Because DJ looked very natural as an under center quarterback. In this day and age, that's rare. Does Mike take advantage of that for a season and install a set of plays where we have an offset eye and we kind of look like we're back in the 90s for a minute?
So cool. I have to admit that as much as I loathe the man, I did appreciate that Harbaugh got to Michigan and said, I'm doing the opposite of what everybody in the country's doing. I'm going to line up, be big. I'm going to be a bully. We're going to run the ball. We're going to have offset lines with massive amounts of size. I'm going to have 6 offensive linemen on the field, 7. I mean, we are going to run the ball, and you are not going to stop us from running the ball. This is what's going to happen. I believe, and so did Bill Belichick. Now, Bill's gone. He didn't get to see it through. He did a poor job of drafting. But I do believe that he was right. He said that's what's coming. He goes, we watch the trends in games, and we know that when one team goes 5 wide and throws the ball over the lot, soon others will do the same. It's what's going to happen, and they'll have success. But defensive coordinators are trying to get paid too. And at some point they decide, here's how we're going to shut that down. This is what we're going to do to offset your ability to do this. And so as more and more teams ran tempo and more teams ran spread and more teams did these things, what did we find, Tom? Well, we found freaks of nature that were hybrid players that were 6'3" and could cover and could play in space and in the slot and do all these things that we'd never seen guys do before. The sport demanded it. And I think the pushback to all of that is to say, okay, you want to run around out here with like one real linebacker? That's what you want to do? Okay. Well, here comes a mass of humanity. Good luck. Good luck filling that with a 204-pound guy who's really good at covering. But does he want to take on a real fullback? Does he want to actually have to deal with 300 pounds of mass coming at him with tight ends that can block and running backs that are 230? Good luck with that.